And so these messages do impact boys, men, and even society, because it's creating these emotional bottlenecks where people are feeling like they have to show up and be a certain way. Otherwise, I'm going to be picked on or I'm going to be made fun of.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dude Therapist. We have Dr. Ann-Louise Lockhart for the second time on the show. I gotta tell you, this is somebody who is creating wonderful content, and not just that, actually helping a lot of people in practice and all the things that she does, as well as an amazing book on teens. And it's funny because a lot of parenting books are for little kids. What to do when you have little kids. Tantrums, late nights. You're in the middle of Target. How do you handle it? Sweets, treats, sleep training. All those wonderful things by, Tina Bryson, Dan Siegel, and what to expect when expecting and everything in between, right? You're now in the teen space. So first off, before we get into all the questions, can you introduce yourself to the listeners? And then we'll get right into it because I am ready to go.
Yes. So I am Dr. Ann-Louise Lockhart. I'm a pediatric psychologist, parent coach. I am an author of an upcoming book, Love the Teen You Have. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm a mom of two, 13 and 15-year-old. Been married for 27 years. And I love this work that I do. And so it's been a long road in terms of figuring out what I want to do and how I want to express the work that I love. But it all comes down to feeling misunderstood as a teen myself by my mom. Although we had a good relationship, she didn't fully know how to connect with me when it mattered. And so I wanted to make sure, and she even said, when I told her about my book, sent her a copy, she was like, this is what I needed when I was parenting you. And that was like the biggest compliment, because that's what I want to help parents with, is to be able to connect with their teens so they could better understand them. And for teens to not feel so alone like how I felt, so that they can be better heard and loved and taken care of by their parents. So that's the whole motivation for why I do what I do. And that's what I've been doing in my practice for years. So it's nice to have all 20 years of experience kind of dumped into a book and give it to the world.
No pressure at all with that. Just taking 20 years of knowledge and throwing it on a piece of paper. It's interesting. When I was coming up in grad school, you get asked, like, what do you want to focus on? What's your specialty that you hope to go through? And for me, it was teens, because I worked for a youth organization for so many years. I was involved in that youth organization as a kid, and it shaped me and changed me as a person to feel loved and seen as a person. I mattered as a teenager. I wasn't just like the limbo stage of, you're not an adult yet, but you have adult ideas. You don't know what the world is, but you do also. And when I was telling people that, they're like, what's wrong with you? Why would you want to work with teenagers? That sounds crazy. And I don't work with teens anymore just because of their parents. And I work with the parents now. I'm a parenting and relationship person, because I noticed that so many people just don't understand their kids. And that to me is the beauty of what you do. And as someone who, I was a teenager, we all were at some point.
We all were, right?
Right? It's such an easy thing to connect to. So to start off, why not write a book or work on the earlier stages to set up a parent earlier than the teenage stage, where maybe some parents feel, what's the point? I've already broken them. I've already hurt them. I'm broken. I can't. The kid's 14 or 15. Let's just wait 3 more years till they go to college, and then I can talk to them as an adult.
So let me answer the first part. When I first started in this field, I did play therapy. That was my introduction into psychology in grad school. My first practicum training experience was working in play therapy with little kids at a school for homeless children in Arizona. And it was really powerful to work with them. But then at the same time, a couple days a week, I would go to a junior high school for students who were at a last chance charter school. They were kicked out of every other place, and they were just making poor choices. And we did sand tray therapy groups. So still play, but having them build like their own worlds. And it's, at first I was like, these kids are not going to go for this. Like they've been in and out of like juvie, and they're kicked out of their homes or whatever else. They're not going to want to play with sand and toys. And I was wrong. They loved it. And it really showed me and I worked with abused kids. Like I worked with kids who were in a hospital dying, like all kinds of really serious issues. And what I've seen throughout the whole time is it's never too late. It's never too late to reconnect with your child. It's never too late to heal. And what I have found is in working with adults, since I work with them as well too, how beautiful it would have been had someone found them and spoken to them and helped them heal and work through their issues had they discovered them earlier, had they told them that, oh, this is ADHD, or this is what depression looks like, or this is why you're struggling, or this is whatever it is. Because in it's so many years of having to undo negative core beliefs and negative self-esteem and negative messaging. And so when parents say, well, they're 15, they'll be out of my house in 3 years, or they're 17, they'll be out in a year. Like, wouldn't you want to repair that rupture though? Wouldn't you want to reconcile that? Because teens do want it. I do parent coaching, but I still work with teens and college age students. They still want, even when there's a rupture in their relationship with their parent, they still do want that connection. And so, yeah, it would have been easy to write a book for the younger population. But like you said, there are so many of them: potty training, sleep training, emotions, all these different things. But there is a real need for books that parents in the tween and teen. So my book is really for the 9 to the 19-year-olds. And when I look for resources for parents that I see, it's really hard to find them.
Yeah.
And it's the same people that are writing the same type of books. And sometimes people want to get a different perspective.
Yeah.
And they want to have, what do I do when? Or not just a book for ADHD teens, or not just a book for social media, but how do I get something that is kind of like my parenting manual in a sense?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of book that I would want to give. I want to write a book that I would give to parents if they needed a resource. And that's why I focused on that, because we pay attention to the babies and the little kids, and then we forget that they grow up and still need a parent to show up for them.
Yeah. And I think that it's such a powerful place to work in, because I think people forget that teenagers need that parenting love. They're not adults yet, and even adults need their parents' love. It's not like just because you go out of the house that you don't need that love anymore. And I think a lot of families, when they have teenagers and they have younger kids, they focus on the younger kids and not the teenagers and say, oh, they're big, they can take care of themselves. And yes, it's true in some ways and not in many other ways. And, the first, idea that I was thinking about when talking to you was my childhood as a kid. I had a great connection with my parents. My brother did not, older brother. They butted heads like crazy. I mean, screaming, yelling, because it was the fight of values of, you need to do this because this is how we do things. This is our last name, like that kind of battle. But then you have families that everything is okay. Everything's good, but still the teens feel alone. How do you write for both those things, right? The tension and the intensity, and the parent that just shows that love, shows up, and the kid doesn't want it. They don't talk at the table. They don't connect. They don't leave me alone. School was fine. And there's no yelling or screaming. It's just not there. Are there similarities? And can you talk about the differences of what you might write to or speak to parents about?
Yeah, that's why I believe parents need to realize that each child is different, that although you have multiple kids in the same household, they're getting different versions of you based on birth order, based on where you are in your marriage, your life, your work, your profession, your education, where they are in their developmental stage. You're getting different versions of each parent and each household. And within that, each of your kids are different. They need different things from you. So it's really vital for parents to parent the child in front of them, not some imaginary one. Because if you have the easy kid who you just connect with because maybe your personalities mesh well, and you have the kid that is seen as more difficult because maybe your personalities clash, or their interests are very different than yours, or they are so wanting to be their own individual, they move away from what the parent values. You have to then reach in. And one of the things I always tell parents, if you don't know what else to do, always get curious and lean into the intention driving the behavior. So if you have a kiddo who's more distant, then get curious as to why. Why are they always in the room or copying an attitude or skipping school or, giving you whatever? Like, be curious about why. And parents will often is like, well, they're just, wanting to get attention. Okay, well, that's a start. So why? Why are they trying to get attention? And why are they choosing this negative behavior to get attention? Because they can get attention in so many ways, positive and negative. So why are they choosing to mask? Why are they choosing to shut you out? Why are they choosing to have an attitude? That we have to be curious as to why. And when we can then reach in, then I think we can better connect with the teen in front of you. And I think many people miss out on that because they just expect the teen to fall in line or just to be easier, because parenting is hard. It's a lot of work. And when you have a child who's more difficult in your eyes, it does require more of your brain energy and your presence. And life is hard enough. We don't want to have to put one more thing on the plate to try to understand what is this teen struggling with when this other one is so easy.
Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting because something that I really try to think about for my kids, and I have a 6.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. And when they are, let's say it's bedtime, right? And I love bedtime because it's quiet, hopefully, you're sitting, you're reading, connecting, and just cute and snuggles and all those things. And I heard someone say a long time ago that when your kid is being annoying at nighttime, right? They're dragging it out. They're fighting, and there's a bid for love. They want more love. They're not trying to be annoying and stay up, right? Because guess what? They're not like running downstairs and turning the TV on. They just say, one more thing. 1 second, daddy. One more thing. I want to tell you one more thing. They want to connect. And we're so easy like, oh my God, shut up, go to bed. Just go the F to bed, right? That famous book. And I had to like really change my mindset on, wow, my kid wants more love and connection to me. Yes, it is annoying. Yes, I have things to do and I'm looking at my watch, but it's an opportunity to connect. And I think a lot of parents with teens, that mindset of the attitude and the, the pushback and the fighting or even the distance, right? They just want attention. Yes, of love. They want your attention. They want your love. Is that so bad? So why do parents view it in your mind as a problem or an issue that needs to be fixed versus my kid feels alone, or my kid is struggling, or my kid is whatever the hopeful side of connection can be versus what the hell is wrong with my kid? They need to be fixed.
Well, because as parents, we get offended and get all up in our feelings. Mm-hmm. And so let me give you an example. So my 13-year-old son, who is an amazing conversationalist, extremely creative, also very sensitive as well. He comes at the end of the school day. He is usually has the most attitude at the end of the school day and comes home and is just snarky. And then as the evening goes on and he gets food in his stomach and has rested, right when it's time to go to bed, chatting it up. And this, and he's fun to talk to, but it's like, dude, you need to go to bed. And so it's very easy as parents to be like, well, you had an attitude when I picked you up at school, and now 5 hours later, you want to be chatting up with me. I'm still mad at you for the way you talked to me earlier. And it's like, so we get offended. And then we start to think, well, back in my day, if I had that attitude, my parents wouldn't tolerate it. And if I let him do this, then he's learning that it's okay to disrespect me. My husband and I have these conversations often. He's like, well, if I don't tell him now and then make it a point, he'll think that it's okay to talk to us this way. And I'm like, he does not think that, because every single time, whether we say it or not, and we make it a point to draw it to his attention, he always is like, hey, I know I had a rough attitude earlier. I'm real sorry. I was really hungry, or I was really tired, or I have no excuse. Can we reset? Like, he'll do that every time. So it's not like he doesn't know that he's having an attitude. He fully knows that. So what does the long lectures and the nagging him do? It just makes him feel worse about himself. And I'm like, I tell my husband, you have bad attitudes too. And so do I. We all do. So let's give him some grace and say like, yeah, you don't feel like talking right now. And that's cool because you'll probably want to right before you go to bed. That is your MO. So it's okay, And so I think we often have very different standards for our teenagers than we do for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hypocritical. So I think we need to give ourselves some compassion, give them some grace, and stop tripping over that stuff, because we all have moments and it's okay. It's okay. We need to normalize that.
I want to talk to the parents listening right now. If you love your partner but feel like after kids, everything got harder, it's not your fault. It's actually pretty normal. I wrote a book, From I Do to We Do, because couples don't get warned about the resentment, the invisible workload, the fights that escalate way too fast, and the disconnect that sneaks in. The book is part real life, part therapist brain, with tools to fight better, reconnect deeper, and actually feel like a team again. Because parenting should feel like us versus the chaos, not me versus you. From I Do to We Do is available now. Order at EliWeinsteinLCSW.com. So I found out a couple of years ago that my parents used to bet how many times I would come out of bed to go talk to them. I didn't know this. They would like gamble. They'd be like, okay, whoever wins, like does the dishes, whatever it was, like they would bet. And, every kid has their thing, right? And their quirks and they're cute and their struggles and all that stuff. In your mind, writing this book and the research and the experience that you have, when is it worth the fight? What are things that modern parents today need to realize, like, let go of it, drop it. It's not worth it. Context this, understanding that this is not where I'm going to die on this hill, whether it's how a kid dresses or, certain things that they read, say, or do. Like, where is that line, or where are those things that are just really not worth it? And where do we put our foot down or feet?
So that's a hard one to answer, because it depends on their age. It depends on their developmental stage. It depends on your culture. It depends on your background, where you live. I mean, there's things that there's some wiggle room, right? So putting that as a disclaimer, I think there's certain things that I hear across the board, whatever the age or ethnic background, cultural background, whatever, of parents and kids. One thing that comes up often is the state of their room, messy rooms.
Yeah.
And there are constant battles and fights between parents.
Battles.
Constant. And I was a messy teen. And it was always, my mom was on me about this. And I did not know how to clean it. And so it was this constant battle where I always felt like I was going to be yelled at. And I still never had the skills. I didn't learn it until into adulthood, how to truly organize and clean my room. Because my mom was just naturally clean and neat. And I never learned that skill. I think she just thought I should know it. So when it comes to messy rooms specifically, we need to not cause a rupture in the relationship over it. Like, it's not that serious to be battling and dying on that hill. Instead, again, get curious. Why is my teen's room so messy? Do they not have the skill? And I talk about this a lot with executive functioning, because executive functioning in our brain that communicates with other parts of our brain, it doesn't fully finish developing until mid-20s. Mm-hmm. And executive functioning is responsible for organization, starting and stopping a task, completing a task, attention, your memory, how quickly you process information, planning, time management. It's responsible for so many things. So when you think about cleaning a room, it requires a ton of executive functioning skills. And if you don't have that, your room will be a wreck. So instead, I think parents should not get into fights and ruptures over that, and instead be curious as to why the room is such a wreck, and even reframe it in terms of what is inconvenient about it. So when your room is in this state, how does it impact your life? So make it less about you and make it more about them. Because they may say something like, well, it takes me forever to get dressed and I can never find the stuff that I like because it's dirty, or I'm embarrassed to have people over, whatever is inconvenient to them. I do the same thing when I see kids in therapy who don't want to be in therapy. Well, everybody else wants you to be here, but why do you want to be here? Why is it inconvenient? Your problem? How is it inconvenient for you? So I think that's a big one. I think that we should not, that should just be like, just let it go or teach them the skill.
Yeah.
I think things like personal preferences and values, a big developmental stage that teens approach when they become teenagers is individuation. So being their own individual apart from you. And up until they become a preteen, you are their world. Everything their parent is you're kind of merged, and you're like this symbiotic merged relationship. And then they become a preteen teen and they want to be their own person. So they may move away from your values, your religious beliefs, your voting preferences, the way you dress and speak and talk and eat, because they want to be seen as unique. And it's interesting because it's like this push pull. They want to be different, but they also don't want to stand out, right? So things, the way they dress, how they wear their hair, the way they speak, like certain things like that. Again, reaching and being curious, and rather than battling it all the time. And I think that we need to allow them to freely express themselves within parameters, of course, at times, but to reach in and be curious about it, but not to have this big battle, because that's how it was 30 years ago when you were a teen, that they can't do X. Like, oh, really? Is that really relevant? Certain non-negotiables, I think, should be, though, making sure that they don't have free and endless access to everything online. So if they have a phone, a computer, a tablet, there should be parental controls on those. You should have a parental control that wakes up and puts their phone to sleep. They should have certain apps that are blocked that they do not have access to, or the amount of time they do spend on certain apps. I think that should be non-negotiable. But as they get older and show more responsibility and maturity, then you loosen up the reins a little bit over time, because you want them leaving your house and knowing how to manage themselves. You don't want them to be like, well, you're 17, you're 18. Now, good luck with all that. You want them to learn how to manage themselves as well, too. But there needs to be, like, they should not have free reign of their devices where they can see whatever they want online and you have no clue about it.
Yeah, I love that last part. And I love everything you said, but I think it's interesting because this is becoming such a big conversation post Jonathan Haidt's, Anxious Generation book and all the kind of research on social media and internet access. And I think it's a great segue into talking to your kids about their mental health and why these things can potentially be hurtful and could, and even, be honest that as an adult, you probably shouldn't be on it as much. And it's hard. And, it's a difficult challenge and battle, and how it messes with your head, and all those kind of things are important. And I think for me, a huge, in my circles as an Orthodox Jew, the fighting and battles are about religious practices. And I don't work with a lot of Jews, not purposely, just, I don't know, depends on the week and the month and the year. And I've had to have real heart-to-heart conversations with parents about understand the tension and stress that you're feeling because of the values that you have. I get it. Sabbath is beautiful and important to you. Keeping this and doing that. How much fighting do you want to have with them and not have a relationship with them? What's the goal? The goal is keeping them close, keeping them connected to you or the source or whatever that you're talking about, with love and compassion and kindness. But don't forget, it's their journey, not yours. It's their journey. Same with college and education and sports. It's their journey, not yours. If my kid comes to me and says, I don't want to play this sport anymore, the answer should not be, do it because it helped me as a kid. It's going to help you. No, it's, why don't you want to do it anymore? Because I'm tired. Okay, let's figure that out. Do you still love it? Yeah, I love it. Great. Let's embrace that. You love it. Let's embrace their journey and their likes and their dislikes, and understand and be curious with why, where, and how, versus pushing agendas that you have because that's how you were raised or how you feel is the right, correct way, but it might not fit that kid or this time of life or this stage they're in. And it's just about what is their journey, what is their path that I want to help them on that is safe, of course, with boundaries of safe, and they're okay. So if they want to go here or there and do things and it's safety, good. But I had a question for you, because there's a lot of fads going around in the teen world, right? The two fads that I'm thinking about right now is Life 360, right? Like watching over your kids that intensely. And and the other thing is I've seen, and I'm not talking about a political thing, but I've seen like men, the masculine man on the right of politics, be a little more aggressive about like the chores and daily habits and, all the Joe Rogan, Huberman podcast type stuff of, my kid has to read 10 pages before they get dinner, or my kid has to do 15 push-ups, no matter what gender. Like, my kid has to do these things. Can you talk a little bit about, is that actually healthy, important? Is there truth to that about these like structured things and the Life 360?
Yeah. So let me start with the Life 360. I see more and more families, college students, and even adults, young adult kids, who they and all of their family members are Life 360'd, and they constantly know where everybody is at all times. And that always makes me feel like, what is the purpose of that? And I think it's under the guise of, well, that way we can keep each other safe and we know where each other is. And I'm like, but because I've seen several parents who their college students have Life 360, and then they will be monitoring them. They're in the bed. They're like, yeah, thanks. I'm glad you saw us, because last night we were monitoring and it was 3 a.m. and he was, at this shady place and we don't know where that was. And then he was at his girlfriend's and then he didn't go to class. I'm like, really? You monitored all of that? Like, when they're into their young adult, even teenage years, I think monitoring every step they take and low jacking, tracking them all the time, it's not healthy for the parent, because then it provides a whole different level of stress. Because now you have this information. Now what are you going to do with it? So either you have to reveal that you're tracking every movement, like you're some private investigator, or you're tracking it and then you see something you don't like, but then you don't say anything because you don't want them to know that you're concerned, or you don't want them to know that you know. And like, so either way, I'm like, what is the purpose of that? So now what?
It's for them.
Yeah.
It's for the parent. It's the anxiety of the parent.
But that creates so much extra
so much more
stress. So now you're anxious, and now you're more anxious, and now you're furious.
And what are you going to do? Call them? You're going to be like, hey, why you, I literally had a client of mine who had a Life 360 or something like that on their teenage son, who'd walk to school in New York City. And he made a left one instead of a right. And she called him and said, why'd you make a left? Go back. And he went, like, looked up, like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Where are you? And she's like, I'm on the app. Go home. Like, I am. The sidewalk was closed. They're doing construction. I don't believe you, all these things. And she just went down this rabbit hole of anxiety that the kid was going to do something bad. And that's why I stopped working with the teenager and started working with the parents. Like, she was the main reason, because I was like, wait. You are so anxious and so overwhelmed that you can't trust your teenager who gets home every day, and they're not like taken away and in a car you have to give them the freedom with boundaries to make decisions. Same thing with college students. At that point, you stalking them like that doesn't give them the freedom to learn who they are and how to do things in a safe way that works for them and their boundaries. And the other thing I say is, what the hell are you going to do? They're in college out of town. What are you going to do? Get in a car, go on a plane, and fly to them because you think that that something's wrong when they left their phone in their dorm room too long and they're not going to class, but they are in class. Like, what are you going to do?
And the other problem with that too is that it creates this second guessing of the teen. They start to not trust their own intuition, their own gut. They don't know how to make decisions without consulting with the big parent, because then they don't know how to look at the pros and cons of a decision, of a relationship, of a route, of food, of everything, because it
steals that opportunity.
Exactly. Because you're always in their head, second guessing and questioning their choices. And so I think in another way too, it creates this, well, mom, what should I do? Dad, should I make this decision? Should I keep this friend? Should I break up with this person? What class should I take? Like, they don't even know how to trust their own gut anymore. And that's not a good thing.
There are so many adults that I see that have their parents' voices, good or bad, but mostly bad, running through their head because their parents never let them figure things out for themselves.
Right.
As parents, we are there to support and have their back and talk it through with them. Just like a therapist, right? We don't tell people what to do. It's not our life. But we do talk through ideas and options that gives people like food for thought to go, okay, now it's your choice. That is such an empowering opportunity as a parent to teach your teens you can make a choice. You can figure it out. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. We got your back and we're here to support you. And if you think you can't, we're here as a last resort. But you need to do it first. Figure it out. Go through challenges. And to have someone on top of you like that, it's like, oh, but the safety. The last 2 years, I have seen more stress conflict between couples and parents and kids because of this Life 360 than solving murders and kidnappings, which is what everyone thinks it's for, right?
Right.
I have seen husbands get yelled at by their wives because it looks like the thing is glitched or whatever, or they turn it off. And then the wife goes, why'd you turn off Life 360? You're going to hide something from me? No. Like, I was at work all day.
I tried Life 360 for a week, a few months ago. Because I'm like, okay, so many people are using it. Is there a benefit? Especially because I travel a lot. I'm like, is it helpful for my families to know, my family to know where I'm at, just in case, right? And I remember I had it, and it gave me a notification once I landed at the airport, my destination, that I had broken the speed limit because it was clocking the plane's miles per hour at like 250 or something crazy. And it was just managing so much of my steps and day, and it didn't feel right. I'm like, okay, you know what?
And let's be honest, if we're going to be really real about it, if you have an iPhone or Android, your phone's tracking you anyways. And you can call the company and ask them if it's really an emergency. But I want to get to the other fad of like the chores, they need to earn and very regimented, right? So we're taught as little kids, structure is really important for kids.
Yes.
Do we need that intensity, or is that something helpful, or is it more hurtful?
So I worked with one of my earliest experiences in my doctoral training. And then after I got licensed, was working in a military hospital here in Texas. For 10 years, I worked in it, and working with Navy, Marines, Air Force, Army, all the branches. And there was a lot of that, my kid broke the rules, so 20 push-ups kind of thing, do some planks. And it's just very much like this physical labor to atone for the poor steps and missteps and choices. And there is research that shows that kids who do chores are more happy, more responsible, all those kinds of things. It helps with maturity. Chores are a good thing. Responsibilities in the house, contributing to the household is a good thing. Kids should have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we move into this rhetoric where some people see it as toxic masculinity, being over masculine, kind of being seen as this over traditional roles of what men and women should do, whatever it is, it's a set of cultural messages that equate masculinity with being tough or stoic or emotionally suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cry or you're punk, you're too sensitive, then being vulnerable is weak. And we see that there's a big split in terms of these soft, men versus these rough, real men. And
alpha versus beta, as they call it.
Right, exactly. And so these messages do impact boys, men, and even society, because it's creating these emotional bottlenecks where people are feeling like they have to show up and be a certain way. Otherwise, I'm going to be picked on, or I'm going to be made fun of, or I'll be beat up in some way. And those things impact mental health because it's emotional suppression. And it leads to a lot of anxiety and depression, as well as aggression, difficulty forming healthy relationships. And you're also then forming this negative relationship with exercise, possibly with chores, with responsibilities, because you're only having to do this when I make a bad choice. So now you're creating this schema in their head that, I do exercise when I make a bad choice. So now they have this unhealthy relationship with exercise or chores. So I just think that there's really shaky ground when we do that it's okay to be a manly man. It's okay to be a feminine man. Like, it's okay if
and
you
I,
have a...
I've seen it more. I've seen it with both men and women, girls and boys.
Exactly.
The idea of like, you need to earn your keep.
Right.
And of course, of course, I
And
think
that
chores
traditional
are
idea.
exactly. And I think chores, if we look at chores as a buy into the home, a respect for the house, that everyone in the house has to respect the home and has their part into the culture of the home. That is a beautiful thing, right? We're all partaking in the home's cleanliness, lifestyle, feel, and vibe. It is on the adults, right? So let's be real. Chores are hard. Giving kids chores is not the end of the world. Having, allowances and all those things are wonderful. I know some people are like, the allowances if they read. Reading is because knowledge is their focus. Okay. Like, if your kid doesn't want to, are you going to scream at them and yell at them that they're not doing the reading that you have assigned to make them read Socrates and Aristotle? Like, come on, like, grow up. It's a kid. It's a kid. So this transitions into, I think, a really amazing conversation about reparenting ourselves. Because I think a lot of times when we have not gotten the love or attention or focus that we hoped to get, we either try to recreate it for what we hope would be. And sometimes we do the opposite of what is healthy. We go the opposite extreme, or we don't know how to parent well because we didn't have a good example. And kids are a huge mirror to the flaws that we have. And we do have flaws. And for a kid to think that we are Superman, Superwoman, right? I heard this line, the hardest day in a kid's life is realizing that their parents aren't superheroes, because we're not, but we shouldn't ever have that facade that we are. So when it comes to reparenting, where do we start? Because that's a long journey to healing. What would be some signs that someone maybe needs to reparent and learn for themselves? And what does that actually mean practically?
Yeah. So let's make sure we define it first, so everybody's on the same page. So reparenting is essentially giving yourself the parenting that you needed but didn't get. So it's about going back. People may call it the inner child or whatever it is just being able to provide yourself with the support and validation, the love, the acceptance, the guidance that helps you feel safe that maybe you didn't get for whatever reason. Maybe you had a neglectful childhood, abusive childhood, absent parents. And it's about really being able to meet that need. I talk more about this in my book, and I have a reframe of it that could say for when people get the book, but it's just, it can feel kind of like a slap in the face when you really look at these unmet childhood needs, because how are you supposed to meet your needs if you never got it met and you don't know how to do it because it was never met in a healthy way or at all? And it's not about blaming parents or caregivers. It's about taking responsibility for your own emotional growth. And one of the things I learned working with the military, which I loved, was, we learned so much about PTSD or post-traumatic stress and following a traumatic event. But one of the things that we often focused on as well is post-traumatic growth. That growth can also happen secondary to a traumatic event or to a negative life event or failure or whatever it is. And that's also important because I believe that character and resilience can be built out of suffering. And one of the books that really changed my approach and my viewpoint on this years ago when I read it was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Best book.
Love this book so much. And he really talks about finding meaning out of suffering, that we don't have to go through suffering to find meaning, but in order to be able to find meaning through your suffering. And he developed logotherapy as a result of that. It's kind of the meaning finding. And I think it's the same way for the reparenting. Some key components, I believe, are self-awareness, knowing that, okay, my parents didn't give me what I needed. They were not present, or they worked so hard, or they invalidated me, or whatever it was. That recognize those patterns from your childhood that influence your behavior, your relationships, your emotional responses, how you show up. So maybe your criticism might be, you make a mistake, you forget a bill. Here I go again. I always screw up. I'm never good enough. Because like you said earlier, maybe that's a message that you received as a kid and now you have internalized it. It's now become your identity. But that self-awareness is important. And then you have to move into self-compassion because you have to treat yourself in a kinder way that you should have received when you were a child. So say things to yourself like, it's okay. We all mess up. I don't do everything perfectly, or I don't do everything well in all areas, and that's okay. Or, okay, well, now I've learned my lesson not to do that because the lights got turned off when I didn't pay it on time. Okay, lesson hopefully learned. And then setting boundaries for ourselves, because we need safety. And if you did not get safety, you need to protect your emotional and mental health. Maybe there's a parent or a family member or a partner or a friend in your life that you let into your life before you were aware that you let in these kinds of people or characters in your life because you didn't have appropriate boundaries, because you believe that you were undeserving. So now you have someone who treats you like you're dirt. So maybe you have to set boundaries in your life. It doesn't mean you cut everybody out of your life, but it means that, hey, I deserve to be treated with respect, and I no longer want to be spoken to that way. If you continue to speak to me that way, I will block you. If you continue to speak to me that way, we will no longer be friends. And they don't have to accept the boundary, but the boundary is for you, not for them. So it gives you kind of a parameter to use. And then I believe it's really about like internal nurturing, like a spa day, like I saw that you did the other day, or taking care of yourself in some way, getting the massage, going for a walk, taking time off from work, a day-to-day with the person that you care about, hanging out with your kids, maybe doing a mental health day and no one goes to work or school and you all hang out, go on a vacation, eat a great meal, watch a funny movie, like doing things that maybe you were denied. Like I've seen videos where people are at home relaxing and then they hear their spouse or their kids come home and they like get up and they like start cleaning because they don't want to look like they weren't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're a grown woman. Why are you doing that? Well, maybe that's that internal narrative. Like, don't be hanging around the house. You better be doing something. Right. Don't be lazy. And so being able to give yourself that nurturing so that way you can then get into these corrective emotional experiences. And one of the things that I remember early on in my training that they always said is they taught us all these therapeutic interventions, all these research-based interventions, cognitive behavioral therapy, and all these different things. But the thing that leads to healing in clients is the relationship. Having a corrective experience with someone else who loves them and cares about them unconditionally and accepts them as they are. And that is the thing that brings healing. And I've been doing this long enough in the same city. And it's so cool to have known a child. Like there's several clients I can think of when I was with the military that I met at 9 or 14 or whatever. And they got better, things got better, but it's every so often, maybe once a quarter, once a year, they will come back when they're having a challenge about something or want advice on something or want to pick my brain on something. And they've been doing this for years. There's several clients that I have like that because it's the one relationship that they felt can be objective. It's outside of their family and their friend group because I cared about them, even when maybe they treated me like crap, because they'd be like, so sorry, I treated you bad because I thought therapy sucked, but you were there for me. Like it's that corrective experience that, yeah, I'm going to care about you unconditionally and in all the messiness that you show up. And so I think that's the same thing with reparenting is we have to do that for ourselves because sometimes you're messy and it's okay. And so that matters because you want to be able to heal that wounded part of yourself so that you're not bleeding all over everybody else that didn't hurt you. And I think that's such an important piece. So reparenting, I feel very strongly about because like you said, it shows up over and over again with parents because then it's not really about their teenager. Many times it's really about the parents and how they're responding to them. And that's what creates these cycles that continue.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, it's a beautiful thing to hear as a therapist. You know, I've had clients say to me, I wish I had you when I was in my 20s or when I first started, you know, dating or when I was in, you know, first started my marriage. Like these things would have helped so much back then. It's like, but now I'm here. And something I would say to add to that, to build on it, and then I have one last question is, I think a very big thing about self-awareness is figuring out and kind of analyzing what the expectations you have as a parent or what your kids, quote unquote, should be based on your past or what your culture or whatever, and see, does that work for me anymore? So just because my parents raised me a certain way doesn't mean that I need to have the same expectations or repeat that.
Yes.
And it doesn't even mean that that was wrong for you. But is it right for me now? So have that conversation or thought process with the expectations that you are setting for yourself. What is a family supposed to be like? What is this fun supposed to be like? Well, all those things that should, and if you get to the same result and it works for you and your family, awesome. But if you change things, that's amazing because you're trying to do it now for what you feel as good for you and your kids, and you can open that conversation with them. Hey, how would you like the vacation to go, or things like that, versus it just being whatever mommy and daddy want, whatever the parent unit is, to be like, we're going to do this, deal with it. And another thing I would add is, when you're going through this reparenting process and healing that inner self because of your past, or, not so distant past issues or struggles, explain it to your partner. Like, I know, my wife has her things and I have my things. And one of the best things that I have felt as being a supportive husband is that my wife has let me into those pain points from her past, and to let me know why her reactions are XYZ in certain scenarios, so that I can then be supportive versus judgmental, like, what the hell is wrong with you? But more of like, oh, I get that. You're not, like breaking a cup, right? We have mugs. We have these glass mugs. We use them for, coffee every morning. And, you move them the wrong way. You quickly move. They fall off the counter. They shatter. I'm like, okay, it's a cup. It was $8 on Amazon. We got 6 of them. It's okay. Like, we'll go get more. And because I know of the household she grew up in and the intensities of certain things, I now won't get as upset or upset at all, because it doesn't really bother me. But it gives me context to be patient and kind if she can't do it to herself yet. Because someone now is just being that support, that love and compassion. And you, as the partner, has that amazing power that it might, that person might not have that skill yet. They're working on it, and they might falter like anyone else does. But you're like, hey, look at me. You're great. You're wonderful. You are enough. Don't worry. This is not that bad. We will take care of it. I got your back. That can be a huge weight off someone's shoulders, that it doesn't have to be the only burden, that they're not the only ones carrying that burden, but you share that burden with them, and the responsibility of healing can be very powerful. So I love that idea. The last question I have is this. Anyone listening today who has a teenager and they're like, okay, doc, that's so nice. You wrote this beautiful book, but like, you don't know my situation. You don't know my teen. They're the worst, all these things. First of all, buy the dang book. Don't complain until you buy the book. Read it and see if it helps you. So that's number one. Go anywhere. Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Bookshop, all the things. Anywhere to buy Dr. Lockhart's book, because it will change your life if you have a teen. Just worded in one way, one line, one thing, one chapter could really just open your mind and heart to make a shift. And that one shift could make differences that you don't even realize yet. That's number one. But number two is the real question. If anyone's listening, what would you say to them that they can take into their heart, take into their mind, or take into their world today? One or two takeaways that you feel could just start the ball rolling in someone's life struggling with their teen.
When you notice a strong emotional reaction to your teen, to yourself, to your partner, in a reaction to their teen, first pause, take a breath, regulate your system first before you spout off, and ask yourself, which part of me feels hurt or unheard right now? How would I have wanted to be comforted as a child or a teen? And then asking yourself, in what way does my teen need me right now? Because whether I know your situation or not, it's really irrelevant, because your teen needs you to show up in all of their messiness and all their crap. They need you to know that they need to know that you are the stable foundation they can rely on in all their mess, their attitude, their moodiness, their acne, their bullying, their friend issues, their academic failures. They need to know that their issues are not too big for you to handle. So yeah, whether I know your situation or not, I have heard all the situations, and it always comes back to someone, especially teens, feeling understood. That is their biggest thing. And if you can look at how can I better understand them, seek to truly know their heart, and you respond to them in a nurturing way and give them maybe the thing you didn't have, because it might be harder for you because you didn't get that. When you were in your worst state, you were treated in that way. So give them a different gift, give them something you never got. And even small amounts of unconditional love and acceptance can make a huge difference. I've seen it over and over again in clients that I've worked with personally, as well as in the parent-teen relationship. I've seen it with my own teens, like showing up. I've seen it with my own mom. We were able to heal that relationship when she wasn't there for me and it has been healed because she owned it. We able to resolve it. So it's never too late. I was fully in my adulthood when we were paired. So I think that regardless of the situation, you need to be able to just show up and adore the teen you have and love who they are in front of you rather than waiting for them to change. Don't do that to yourself and don't do that to them.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do, for always being a support for me, and always just being a light of knowledge and just this wonderful person. So thank you so much for being on the show. The book will be in the show notes. Her website will be in the show notes. Her Instagram will be in the show notes. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about jotting it down and figuring out, oh my gosh, did I spell it right? It will be there. It's okay. But thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ellie. Thanks for having me here.
Follow now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and finally, see me on YouTube.